Hello everyone, welcome to Stan the Wine Man TV. I am your host, Stan Rattan, and this is a Blue Collar Wine Show where I help you spend your wine dollars wisely. Glasses up.
Okay. Thank you, Stan.
I'm with Tim Narby. Thank you for joining me, and his wife Carol.
Thank you for having me.
Carol, I'll sit here too. Tim Narby is the owner and winemaker. They're the owners. He's the winemaker at Nota Bene winery, which means take note, basically, right? Roughly.
It's Latin. Note well. Carol's a Latin student.
Yes.
And it's our initial, so it's used as an NB in Europe. It's a literary reference.
Yeah.
And I'm Narby and she's Bryant, and she thought of this.
That's
so
perfect.
Our logo is NB.
That's perfect.
Yes,
I love it.
Yeah.
Anyway, I was just, my buddy Clark, he lives down in South Seattle, near where your winery is.
Yes,
right?
the Highland Park Corner Store.
He had met Tim, had his wines, and he told me Tim has some great wines, would like to introduce you to them. So we met in Anacortes, which is the boat ride over from here, and we got together and tasted a bunch of his wines. I fell in love with them, and I bought a bunch of them, and we're selling them at the store. And he came yesterday to King's Market, and we did an in-store tasting. It was a pretty good one. We sold quite a bit of wine.
I think we did
we did really well.
One whole case went out at one time.
Yeah.
That's
I think we sold about 3 cases of wine, which is great. So we're going to talk. I'm going to let Tim take over. We're going to talk about his winery, how he got involved, because he is part of the Boeing Wine Group. And then this will be a two-parter because I want to get into this little test we're going to do with 2 wines. One is his and one is from somewhere else in the world. We're going to taste them blind and see what we think. All right, Tim, tell the story. How'd you get involved in wine? What made you decide you wanted to get involved in wine?
Well, we got so Carol can say this maybe, but we got a winemaking kit for our wedding.
For our engagement, we got a winemaking kit from friends. It came with a can of blackberry syrup. So not very good wine that we made that first time, but we were in love with Zinfandel at the time, and we found out that someone in the area was trucking Zinfandel grapes up.
Tony
Picardo for the Sons of Italy in Seattle. And so we went down, bought some pallets of Zinfandel to make wine at home, and then Tim discovered the Boeing Wine Club.
And so I joined the Boeing Wine Club in 1987. So I was hired into Boeing in 1978, and I didn't join the Boeing Wine Club until 1987. But then I quickly got involved, and eventually I was on the board, and I was the grape procurement chairman. And as the grape procurement chairman, you have people that go out and source grapes and collect orders so that the vineyard is only buying from one place, one person in the Boeing Wine Club. And we were purchasing about 90,000 pounds of grapes a year. So we had about 90 really serious 1,000-pound winemakers on average making wine at home. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was.
And then the club also did an annual competition where we'd all get together with potluck food and everything, but then have bottles up for judging. Actually had, real judging in, not club members,
we had
but
industry
people
members,
come in to come
winemakers,
judge. And our wine's got some good awards.
People, enologists, sommeliers. yes, we got some awards. Yeah.
Yeah, good. And then in that group, I think there's probably one of the better known winemakers out of that was Ben White.
Ben Smith. Cadence. And then Dave Larson, Seuss Creek.
Okay.
I think, John
Olson.
John Olson from Alvia. And then John... And from, there was Willis Hall.
Oh, Willis Hall, right.
Yeah.
John Bell.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So quite
too
a few
many Johns.
Quite a few people from the Boeing Wine Club
And
started
Nota
their
Bene.
winery.
And Nota Bene.
And then, yes.
There you go. So at what point, because when we met in Anacortes, it was interesting that I think it's Ben Smith that's thinking about stepping out.
Thinking about it, yes.
And you told him you shouldn't do that.
I think he should make less wine.
Make less wine.
I think he works too hard.
Yes.
Yeah. He's a tough guy.
Does he make more wine than you do?
Oh yes.
You're at about.
I mean, I think so. I really, so last year we bottled 719 cases.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and at our peak, we were making 1,600, and that was just way too much work and
Yeah.
way and too much. Geez.
And you have an assistant that works with you?
We have 6 part-time employees, and we have some volunteers that are really dedicated, and Guy Granger and Lisa Edwards help me rack. They're terrific. They're club members. We have 3 levels of club memberships, and they are our founders, club members, and which is our highest level. Su Yim, yes, and so she helps crush, and so we have help.
And you have a lot of fun doing this, obviously. I get the impression from you.
I really don't want to stop. It's really hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it must be very satisfying, because I've always thought in my head it would be fun to just get, a couple of barrels and do something. Of course, being here on the island makes it a little more difficult strategically, and I do all this YouTubing and everything else that I do, so it's something that's just kind of in the back of my head. But I thought it must be very satisfying, like last night, to have all those people come up and say how much they enjoyed your wine.
It's very satisfying, and it's not just fame and certainly not fortune, but but it's it's a mystery. This grape juice turns into this thing that's so you have these experiences every so often. So for me, these wine moments happen late at night. Maybe you've had wine open from a dinner party and the guests go away and you sit down with one more glass before you go to bed, and it's just so good. You can't believe you're getting all these flavors. It's just amazing.
Yeah.
So I think it's when you fall in love with wine, and then you realize that you can make it, that you don't want to stop.
Yeah.
And you only do it once a year too. So even though
pretty grueling once a year.
Oh, it's a grueling once a year, but there, you wouldn't believe all the customers that come in and say, "Well, how many times do you make wine a year?" Geez, no.
Well, yeah.
So.
And I've always said this is something, and maybe you can contribute a little bit to this, is that I think wine guys like me have to be really careful, because you can really kind of BS your way through descriptions of wine and talking about wine, because you don't realize how few people dive in as deep as we do about wine.
Right. Yeah.
And we had a guy that told everybody how that Graciano was just so difficult to get, and when you see it in wine, that's why it's so expensive. And I'm thinking, we have a Graciano stacked at the store for $11.99 a bottle.
Yeah.
But he could say that to this group of people because they would believe it.
Yeah.
So I'm really against the BS part of wine. A lot of critics you can say things and get away with it because 85 to 90% of the people don't know any different.
Yeah.
Do you agree with that, or?
I think that there is that wine. One of the problems with wine is that it's difficult to get your arms around. People are intimidated by how complicated it is, and that's part of our.
Well, the mystery behind it.
Yeah.
When we were studying doing this, we went to a big winery and well-established winery, and we were going through getting a little tour, and we were asking questions like, so what temperature do you keep and what yeast do you use? And so many times the answer was, that's an industry secret. And now that we've been in all these years, it's sort of like you can give Joe and Harvey the same wines from the same rows and the same yeast, and they're going to come out with different wines.
Yeah.
It's just the reality of life.
It is. Yeah, it's true. And I think too that wine doesn't have to be mysterious. I think you can make it mysterious or you can make it simple. Yeah. And I think, for an example, I met with a group of people and we talked about Chablis, and nobody in the room knew that Chablis was Chardonnay. We had a Sancerre. Nobody in the room knew that Sancerre was a Sauvignon Blanc. And in my mind, those are simple things, right? But we have to remember that for the majority of people, it's not a simple thing.
Right.
They enjoy Sancerre, that's good enough, in my opinion.
They have busy lives, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, people want to go in different directions, and
Yeah.
we've chosen this one.
Yeah, I know. And I'm so glad I did, and I'm glad you did.
Thank you.
So we have, I wanted to ask you too about specific things. You mentioned something last night that really intrigued me. Name at least 2 practices in winemaking that you sort of wish were not there.
Well,
and that's okay.
I mentioned that I think
Sterile
filtration. You know, I said, you know, there's this natural wine movement, minimal intervention movement. I do like to think that I'm doing minimal intervention. I try to do as little as possible. For one thing, it's expensive, it's time consuming. Sterile filtration, I said, it seems to be, to me, one of the most unnatural things you can do to wine, because you remove all the microbial flora in your, or are they fauna? That's I forget, and I have a zoo degree too. So maybe they are flora and fauna, depending on which they are. You know, maybe they aren't even that. You know, they're yeast. They're different. Anyway, so removing those things does, I think, change the wine, how it ages in the bottle, and maybe that's part of what what we were talking about. Do I have a house style? And you said, oh, I think you do. Did you say that?
Yes.
Yeah, so I think I do. You know, I don't know. I think if there's one other winemaker that I think my wines sometimes taste like his wines, because I taste his wines, it might be Brian Carter. I've said that to people. And he's more well known than I am, because I'm small boutique, or we are small boutique. But anyway, I think that I guess, like you say, another one. What else would, so now the organic practices that are happening around the world, the movement towards organic, I think that's really good. I do think, in listening to what we're doing with Sustainable Washington in Washington State, that it is a step in the direction towards organic. But, however, we wish there was some kind of intermediate thing beside. Maybe Sustainable Washington is going to work for a long time so that you can control to a certain degree the viability of your crop. There are things that happen that you need intervention to save the crop, and because if we're not selling the grapes and the wine in a sustainable manner, we're not carrying on the tradition. And so sterile filtration is an effort to remove any possibility of a flaw that's microbial, and I think that's going too far.
I agree, totally. The other thing you were mentioning, what was it? I lost it.
But not using sulfites.
The other thing is like Mike, who's now my assistant, my second assistant, is really sensitive to Brett, which is natural. It happens a lot in European wines.
Yeah.
Now I like it as long as it's not over the top.
I have so I don't know. I've had discussions about Brett because I'm taking great. So I do steam my barrels, every year. And you can use hot water. A lot of people have hot water generators. I have this cobbled together steaming system that I use, and I steam each barrel for a half an hour. I'm very small. I'm able to do that. That's one of my most egregious efforts to suppress Brett in my barrels. I think that that's something I need to keep doing, and I think that Brett is everywhere. They blame it on winemakers. Okay, if the winemaker's not sterilizing everything all the time, and you can't really. We talk about sanitization, not sterilization in the winery, you can't have, the grapes come from the vineyard, they can't be sterile. It's
Right.
just, it's
Right.
just impossible.
Right.
And so.
Well, I think there's levels of Brett too. I mean, Brett is some people are so sensitive to it, they can't drink any wine that has even a touch of it. And I think sometimes, like, he'll mention Brett, and I just think it's a funky European wine. And I like that funk sometimes. You think about Christoph Baron.
I agree, and I don't know. I mean, I've heard people say that you know those wines have Brett, and I don't know that myself. I taste them, I like them. I do see a lot of uniformity in those rocks.
Oh yeah.
Those rocks wines, and what that flavor profile is, I don't know. And no, that's probably just because I'm not there. I don't know what they're doing.
Well, some people perceive that like the rocks, that funk
As
Brett. As Brett.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
And I think we tasted a wine the other day, and the individual said this has Brett. I didn't see Brett in it. I saw funk, not Brett. Now Brett is Brettanomyces is not a desirable quality if it's takes away the wine's qualities.
Right.
But there are, I don't mind funky.
So-
And that's a very typical of European wines. They will
Right.
have a funkiness, just like the Rocks District in Walla Walla.
Well, I think you're more apt to have funkiness and all the chemicals that are produced by microbes if your wine has a diverse microbial base, and I think that there are ways that's really good.
Yeah, I do.
The
too.
question-
And especially over time too, and I think that the wines change over time, and
For
So
sure.
I was going to say, the question is whether the Brett takes over the flavor of the grape.
Yeah.
If you cannot taste fruit, you got a problem.
Yes.
But if you can still taste the fruit.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's just like when a wine's corked. I went to the Columbia Tower one time for a tasting, and I was going through, and Henry Estates was sitting there, and he was down about that far on his Pinot. It was quite a bit of people had tasted it. And he poured me some, and I go, "This is corked," and he goes, "Is it?" And he smelled it, and he put it on the table and opened another one. But there were several wine people that went through and never noticed. So like Mike may be more sensitive to what he considers Brett, just like I'm very sensitive to a corked wine.
exactly.
Yeah.
I think that's true. I think
Yeah.
it's true. Everybody's different. And,
Now I can drink a wine if it's slightly corked, as long as it doesn't, like you
Yeah.
said, take away the flavor of the wine.
Right.
I can deal with it. But I don't think it's fair, like if I'm reviewing here, I've actually had a couple of wines that were corked. I can't grade this wine because,
Right.
Yeah.
and speaking of grading, let's just shift gears before we try these two wines. What we're going to do here is we've got one of his wines. He doesn't know which one is his. And then we've got one from another part of the world. We're going to just taste them and get his perspective on them. I'm sure he'll be able to identify his, but they're very similar in composition. So it'll be fun to try. We should get a glass for you too.
Well, we can share.
Okay.
Yeah, we're fine.
But before I do that, I really have gotten disenchanted with the 100-point scoring system because you have 75 points that are never used.
Maybe
more.
90 or
Well, at least 85
85.
that are never used. So why have such a huge scale just so you can say this wine is a 95-point wine? I thought that was funny because I use a grading system because when I went through school, you either got an F or you got an A, and there was only like so many spaces in between there. And I always said, I had a teacher give me an A+ one time. And my homeroom teacher said, "You can't get better than perfect." And I said, "Well, the A+, she likes me." I mean, that's what the plus is about. The plus is saying you go above and beyond what you should do as a student. And so I feel that way about wine. If it goes above and beyond its price point and the quality you expect for that, I'll give it an A+. And I have given a wine an F. It failed. But that doesn't happen as much as it used to in the past. There's very few wines now that are that poorly made.
Terrible.
Right.
So, how do you feel about the 100-point system? Just in a nutshell.
I guess I have I've always wished that I was getting more points than I do get, you know. So they have to do something. I guess with our wine club, we always Boeing Wine Club used the 20-point UC Davis scale.
Yeah.
And I kind of like that. I
That's
got
better.
used to scoring that, and I still do it every once in a while when I have time. They asked me, last year I couldn't, the Boeing Wine Club did ask me to judge, and I couldn't, but I really like that. It's in groups, so I think there's 5 groups of 5 points. So there's color, you know, there's
Clarity.
color and clarity, smell,
Aromatics.
taste, finish, and overall maybe
Right.
that's 5.
Yeah.
I don't know. And so I kind of like that, you know, because
It's easy to
It's a much
categorize.
smaller scale.
it's broken down
That makes
into
sense.
the sections, and you know mostly you give them a 5 for color and clarity. You know, almost everybody. You know, I don't know. It depends. Some people think, you know, like a Sauvignon Blanc, it's too dark for, you know, maybe, or it's a little bit cloudy. You can score them off for that. But anyway, I like that scale. But here again, if you're not the one doing the tasting and marking and showing the score, you don't know what the person. If they just get 18 out of 20, and you don't say where were those 2 points knocked off.
That's a very good.
Now, see,
and that's
this
the
is
same
the
with the
thing.
100-point scale.
Yeah, so nobody's telling
Where the
you
points coming off,
why where your points are coming off. You know, and I've always felt, oh well, my points are coming off because I only make 50 cases, you know, and they say, oh, that's too easy. You know, what if you need to make 200 or 1,000 to get a 98, you know, because you're not trying that hard.
well, that's
so I don't know.
well, and I think too, like there's a very well-known wine critic that has been accused of scoring wines a little higher so his can get his name out there.
Oh yeah.
So everybody
Yeah.
wants his name
There's that
because if you
too.
score that wine higher,
Mhm.
I think with the point scoring system, and this is a problem in the wine industry, is winemakers, wineries are too dependent on critics.
Yeah. Well, that's,
Instead of, you know, trying to strive to push their own wines in their own way, they want to get a, you know, Parker 94
certainly
point.
does help.
It does help. I see the commercial value of that.
Yes.
Although it's losing a little bit of its thunder, like I used to have people come with their top 100 from the Spectator and
Oh.
look around and see if I had it. I have not seen that
Oh.
in quite a few
Right.
years. But it's fair to say that a lot of my locals have depended on me for recommendations.
No, that's
They're
nice.
not looking to Parker or Suckling or one of those other guys to get their recommendation.
Right.
Well, that's a credit to you because
Well,
it indicates
I understand
what they bought from you.
Yeah.
They've always been
and
satisfied.
the wine
so.
steward, you know, has a big job because you have to remember what everybody else
Likes.
what they like, you know.
Yeah,
and,
it's hard.
And then maybe try to steer them a little bit. Remember, we had the guy last night who always buys that one wine, you know,
Yes.
yeah, which will remain
The brown cab.
Oh yes, but we sold him one of ours.
Yeah, he bought the Majestic,
Yes,
didn't he? Or the
he
Cab
did.
Franc, one of those.
It was a Majestic.
Majestica, yeah, he really liked it.
He did.
Yeah, so you kind of try to
I
get them
said,
to experiment a little
Please
bit.
just taste my red wine. I said, no. There's way more.
Acid
The
Well, you
total
helped-
acidity
you helped
and
her,
the
though.
yeah, well,
You helped her to understand.
I don't know.
You
if I
have to
did, but
guide them a little
I
bit,
try,
and hopefully it
you don't
sticks.
want somebody. I mean, you know. So the
have to
truth
do
of the
it
matter
gently.
is,
We narrowed it down to tannins, right?
I
Yeah.
don't know. That's what I thought. Maybe, you know. I don't know.
Well, how's a person supposed to really understand the difference between acid and tannin? I mean, that's a tough one.
The explaining is, you know, the question is really, do I understand enough to articulate it myself?
Well, you
know?
certainly
There's
do.
also
Yes.
the way you articulate because you have to do it in a way where you're not offending them.
Well,
Right.
here-
Essentially, not conveying the message that you're so stupid.
Well, we
Yeah.
don't want to
Don't
make
be
wine too
condescending.
complicated.
Yeah.
Doggone it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If people want to drink the same wine over and over, that's fine.
No.
You know, at least they're drinking the wine.
And I always use the analogy of coffee. When I first started drinking coffee, I put cubes of sugar and cream.
Yeah.
And eventually,
Yeah,
I graduated to black coffee,
Yeah.
and really strong black coffee.
Right.
So if you look at wine the same way, you can start out with Moscato,
right.
but don't stop there.
Yeah.
Try something new. Keep
Yes.
experimenting,
All right,
and you don't have to spend a ton of money to do it.
right, that's true,
Exactly.
that's very true.
Yeah.
Cool. So we're going to do this little test. This will be part 2, because I know this is going to be a long video if we just go right into it. So I'm going to just stop the video here, and then we'll start it again for part 2.